Yeah, so like I think back in those days, was just a young boy from a village who, didn't understand a lot of things about unit economics, what makes this giant work, But I had a dream of building like the biggest e-commerce platform in Africa at the time, you know. Um, so so I mean, one of the things that I saw then was I think there's a lot of things that I learned, about like number one is understanding that like who your customer is,
Yeah,
that was the biggest lessons that I learned when I was reading books. So for instance, like we didn't have a huge selection of books where everybody could buy from us, you know. So we had like few publishers that were like partnerships with, So for instance, I couldn't sell engineering books or computer science books because there was no partnerships there, and also like what I learned there was not to take it personal when people are not buying. Maybe they're just not the target market, you know,
yeah,
because a lot of people there's this thing of people who are forced to support black businesses and all of these things, And I'm not against that, but I think the biggest thing is you need to offer a product that speaks to the people. People should not be forced to buy from you just simple because you're black. They should see value in what you're offering. I went through the same thing back then where I understood very well that I can't just take a commerce book and sell it to engineering students and
yeah,
expect them to buy it because they're supporting a black business.
yeah,
And also like understanding the fact that also the price matters at the time. Why should people buy from should they buy from you instead of going to Fanscake where it's known, all of those things. They're used to it, and even parents, for instance, like when they send their kids to school, they tell them that you must buy from this place. So, for instance, one of the things that I learned at the time was I realized that it was very important to give students like a quotation. Where a lot of bookstores were not giving that to students. When you go there, you give them quotations, and then they take that, they give it to their parents, then automatically they buy from you. So this whole thing it had nothing to do with you being black. In fact, people didn't even know then who was the owner of this business.
yeah, yeah,
And that's what I encourage. I want to encourage a lot of people who are running business as well that you just have to make sure you work on your value proposition.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, I remember at the time as well, like one of my in-laws, for instance, she wanted to buy. So like we actually grew our catalog as well. We started to sell even electronics.
mhm,
And one of these days, my wife's younger sister wanted to buy a laptop, right?
mhm,
And she decided to go to Incredible Connection, and I was selling that. And, and I was like, okay, what's going on here? So it's easy for people to think, no, this person is just against me. But
yeah,
lucky for me, like I knew this person well, we connect very well. They got absolutely nothing against me.
yes,
It's just like I'm not. Like it didn't click that like I actually do that as well. You
yeah,
see, so I learned at that time that it's very important for for you or for your customers to know what you stand for.
mm,
Sometimes we bombard customers with a lot of things, like you do catering, you do this,
yeah,
then people end like you don't come like you're not top of mind. Like when people think of books, they don't think about you. You
yeah,
know.
yeah,
So one of the key things is, and it's very easy for when you're still struggling, where you think, you know what, like whatever comes my way, I'll take it because I need to make some money. But when I look at it over a long term, it's sort of like you realize that you haven't worked towards anything.
yeah,
So for me, those are some of the things that I learned back then. That what, it's very important to know who your customer is, and making sure that you come in like whenever they think about like any product, whatever
mm.
you are the person that they can think of.
So,
And
so,
there's nothing personal about like if family members or your friends, because a lot of people actually end up even losing friends when they don't buy from them.
yes,
There's
yeah,
nothing wrong like when your family, friends, or your family or anyone doesn't buy from you. It means you just have to do some work in terms of
yeah,
it's actually about the entrepreneur. It's got nothing to do with the customer. Often the customer, I mean, remember, customers got a lot of choices, and that's fine. They've got a lot of options, and they should have a lot of options.
mhm,
But it's your job to work on it to say, you know what, I'm going to actually give you a reason why you should buy from me.
yeah,
Yeah. And how do you come to that place where you give them a compelling reason, being top of mind to a customer that you are the right person to provide XYZ service or product? Is it an issue of marketing? Is it an issue of service, quality of product? How do you actually position yourself in the mind of a customer to have you top of mind?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll give an example as well with us at Zozi, right? When we launched, we used to do like food delivery, pharmaceuticals, liquor, and groceries, as an example, and this is very important to understand these things, because also like what I've seen is people also actually even fear people like a lot of these big companies. When they come here, they're like, oh, this guy is gonna walk all over everyone, and they forget that that skill of coming like first in mind for every customer, it's very, very difficult, not just for startups, for even for big companies. If Standard Bank tomorrow were to sell groceries, it's gonna be hard for them. Even during lockdown, lots of people, they were like, oh, look at Netflix, they're selling groceries now. And I looked at them, I was like, okay, no, it's fine, man. I wasn't really worried. And those guys are my friends, but I was like, I'm actually not worried. I know what it takes to actually get to a point where you come first, like where customers think about you when they think about groceries. So for us to go back, I mean, to my example is we used to do like everything. We used to do like food delivery, pharmaceuticals, groceries, and liquor when we started, right?
Yeah.
And then I immediately realized that, in fact, a lot of our customers, they will talk on social media to say, there's this black company, and like they really wanted to promote us in good faith. Like they were really passionate about what we're doing. They were not just talking about things that they didn't love. They really loved us, and they were saying, these guys are doing amazing things, and obviously people will ask, how is this thing different from Uber Eats or Mr. D, and I saw a lot of like those type of questions from customers, where they couldn't actually understand how we're different from Uber Eats and Mr. D at the time, and when I look back at the time, we were sort of like what we were selling at the time. We're probably doing like maybe let's say 70% was food delivery, and then 20% was groceries.
Mm-hmm.
So I then decided that like I don't want customers to be confused about what we are all about. So I then made a decision over a period to say, like we want to be known for groceries.
Yeah.
And we had to stop like delivering like restaurant food, everything, to focus on groceries. And the reason why I did that, it was because I wanted, number one is I wanted customers to know us for as guys who are actually doing groceries.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, obviously, like also how this thing works. When you start to understand this, you realize that the way you buy groceries and the way you buy food from restaurants is very different. In fact, groceries were more challenging. So I sort of like, I was like, guys, let's rather take this challenge. Let's work on this challenge. This is challenging. And also having to think about like who in this space is doing exactly the same thing as what I'm doing, because you also have to be realistic as well, you're not gonna fight Mr. D or Uber Eats, where like they've got like over R1 billion in funding. Like all in all, like to build a great company, it doesn't take one person. So unfortunately, as much as you are a big dreamer and you think you can do all of these things, you often realize later that actually you need more hands to do this. So for us, yeah, like I then realized at the time that like I think let's rather go for something that's niche, which was groceries. And funny enough, some of the partnerships that we're able to get after some time. In fact, we struggled back then to even sign up like a restaurant, like when we were still doing like food delivery. Like I remember Rocco Mamas, for instance, like, there was a lot of sign, like the head office approved everything, was very excited about it. They were like, what, like you can actually just go and talk to the guys who are the franchise owners, just see if we can partner with them, And a lot of guys didn't want to partner with us. They're like, what, like one Mr. D, it's fine, even for guys who were doing very well, where we're probably coming first in terms of the deliveries that we're doing, but the guys just didn't want to partner with us, So we actually struggle.
What was the reason? Why didn't they want to partner with a company that seems to be doing well? What was the reason?
Yeah, look, I think partnerships are, it's a different thing as well. It also depends on who's making that call at that time. Do they like you? All of there's a lot of like complicated stuff that goes towards that, and I think often is you need to sort of like give them enough, like at some point you actually have to give them like no option, where you actually are pumping like really, really like hard, where every order that comes through, they can see that, okay, these guys are actually like pumping, So for me, I looked at it, I was like, okay, cool, we're just not gonna compete in this space. And then we focus on groceries, right? We focused on groceries, we started to perfect a lot of things. We started to see a lot of challenges that are in the grocery space. One of the challenges that we saw, for instance, was often when you go buy stuff, right, in the retail space, you as a customer, it's easy for you to change your mind. Like if you go there and you see that okay, there's no low fat, you can decide on the spot. Okay, cool. I'm just gonna make this, and you got the whole context as well in terms of like what you want to do. So online is a different thing. We don't have a context of what you wanted to do.
Okay.
You wanted to bake a cake, and then you bought these ingredients, and one thing is missing, and and then it becomes a bad service to a customer because now all of a sudden I couldn't get that thing.
Yeah.
One of the things that we picked up at the time was it was super important for us to make sure that you have a clear communication between the shopper. So what we have as Zuzi, maybe let me explain a little bit. So Zuzi, we operate the model where customers place their orders via an app. Behind the scenes, we've got personal shoppers who go to the retail store, pack the items, and then we've got independent drivers who come and collect those things and then deliver them to a customer. So one of the things that we realized is it was super important for us not to just simply replace a product with what we think is, the customer will love, or, because we don't have that context in terms of like what do they want to do. Low fat, full cream, someone is trying to lose weight, you give them full cream when they've ordered low fat, and those things they become terrible to the customer, So then what we had to do at the time, we had to build like a replacement platform where we could actually, where a shopper could actually chat with a customer in real time, and funny enough is when we started to perfect the system, we started to perfect it. We got to a point where I think, if I remember well, is we moved from like, let's say like 200,000 rand a month to like close to 700,000 rand a month, worth of groceries, At the time, I think I knew that, now we're in control. Now we really understand the space, to a point where retailers came to us. It was a different thing now altogether. Remember, these are the guys who struggled with a restaurant. A restaurant, most of these guys, their turnover is R1 million a month. Now we had guys who are doing 8 billion rand a month coming to us to say, how do we work with you? And this has got absolutely nothing to do with a race. It had to do with the fact that we have built a product that works. We have spent a lot of time to perfect it, and I remember at the time, for instance, some of the guys we work with is obviously ShopRite Checkers, where we've helped them to build 60/60 platform. We're still very much involved in that. They actually approached us, to say, how do we work with you guys? Because we see you guys are leading in this space. You guys are the experts. And what was interesting is they had tried Uber Eats, for instance, and these are the things that, I want to encourage young people out there, where often people think, these big multinationals can just do anything, They went Uber Eats and they realized that that platform was not really meant for groceries, there was just too many challenges, delivering a burger is easy. It's not as difficult as delivering groceries. When you order a burger from Steers, chances of you getting it is 99.8%, Whereas with groceries, whatever you order, there's a lot of moving things there, Even the retailer themselves, they don't know what they have in stock, So those are things that we solved at the time. And I started to realize that, yeah, like, and this is also like something that even investors need to understand as well. When I look back at the time, I think there's a lot of investors who never really understood that, that it's possible that you could have a young black guy with a dream who can make this thing work, who can actually build the likes of Uber Eats or whoever, or even Mr. D in the grocery space. I think a lot of guys never really understood that, and now when I look back, I actually realize that a lot of guys also struggle to penetrate like just to have a partnership with like a retailer, there's a lot of guys who are there in the e-commerce space who struggle to get that, because I think retailers, they sort of like look at your numbers, say how big are you, all of those things. So like a lot of guys were not able to bring in a good value proposition to these guys to say, these are the guys we can partner with. And yeah, like for us,
in your case, you were able to crack that because you had perfected your model and the system and the process that makes the whole machine works. And so they could see, that you guys are up to something. As you say, it's them that approached you.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, so like I think one thing was like, even for myself, I had confidence. I knew I could go to a meeting with the CEO of any retailer, and I would tell them that, what, we know this space better. I could tell you what this guy is not doing. All of these guys, most of them, they had online platforms, and I will tell them that these are the things that they're not doing right.
Okay.
And I had all the confidence in that. So it was no longer a debate. In fact.
And how is it that a fairly new company like yourselves, Azuzi, knew more about the customer of ShopRite or Checkers or whoever more than they did when they've been in the space for so long? What were they missing that you guys were able to identify quickly?
I think the key thing is, like, it was a different thing. I mean, it's online, like, so one thing I knew is, like, when we went into the space, like, none of the guys were doing it well, like even now, like, if you look at who are the guys who are probably leading in the grocery space, like, for instance, like, if you look at the retail space, people will tell you Checkers 60/60 beats everyone hands down, because obviously we are very much involved in that in terms of building the tech to help them to do that, So, but obviously at the time there was that debate that, like, can you build something that can beat Pick n Pay online or even Woolworth online, I think at the time, when I remember very well, is we had a lot of, like, customers will even go to these retailers to tell them that we love Zuzi, we have stopped buying online using whatever platform that they had built, to say these are the guys that, they actually deliver an awesome service to us,
Yes.
So those are the things that it was super important for us, to build that foundation. And what was also key was being able to retain the customers. I mean, when I look at our retention, it was very, very impressive, So we're not just like, we never spend a lot of money on advertising. We're actually able to hook the customer, like, I mean, all the top end customers. I mean, if I look now, for instance, like our top 200 customers spend over 20,000 rand on the platform, So that's the hook that we provide to those customers. We kept on coming back to Zuzi over and over again, and while we're also working hard to perfect it, So yeah, so for us, I think we got to a point where we knew that, like, this is our space,
I have to go back to when you decided to choose the grocery space as your market to play in. I mean, grocery retail is a business of thin margins, right? And then you guys come. What was the thinking there in terms of economics? I mean, did you run numbers to see if you guys will make money, or were you just saying, look, we'll figure it out along the way as we go? Can you just talk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's funny that when I look back, like, now, obviously now I know the numbers, right? But then we didn't know the numbers, definitely,
Yeah.
We didn't know. Remember, we didn't have partnerships when we started, right? So whether if it was groceries or restaurant, we didn't have a partner, you know. Today, what I know is obviously if you go and partner with a restaurant, you can get like 30% margin, you know, which is great, you know. If you go to any retailer, uh, you ask them for 5% margin, they'll be like, you crazy, you know. So, so those are the things that, you
Yeah.
know, like at the time when I was still young, I didn't know that. And I think that is super important, you know. I think people who change these things in terms of the world, how things are done, are people who don't know, you know.
Mm.
You know, like today, you know, like even when I have to go to a space, I don't want to have an expert in that space
Mm-hmm.
because experts, they know the boundaries. You know, I didn't know the boundaries. You know, and when you don't know the boundaries, it's what makes you to be excellent. It's what makes you to come with different ways to redefine how things are done. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so I mean, yeah, like I mean, when you look at tech businesses, unfortunately, I think it's important to have I would say to sort of like think about margins, all of those things is very important, you know. But what's key is when people love your product, that's what's more important because then you can find multiple ways to make money, you know. Today we're sitting here, we've got multiple revenue streams that we have, you know. We
Are you able to talk us through what those look like?
Yeah, look, I mean, there's few things. I mean, like one of the things that we do now is there's a lot of advertising, for instance, from brands.
Uh-huh.
So brands, instead of spending their money on like Google Ads or Facebook,
Yeah.
they can actually spend that on Zuzi because we actually know exactly what the customer is buying, and we're able to influence the buying pattern of a customer in real time. You know, so that is quite big for us. What we started doing as well is we started to build what we call dark stores as well, you know. So we're taking it further to say, hey guys, like remember like what we used to operate is what we're operating right now is we were sort of like sitting on top of retailers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you've got Zuzi on top, and then you've got retailers underneath, you've got FMCGs, right?
Mhm.
But you know, like if you look at it properly, is retailers also like they have done this before as well. It's not new. Like they have actually started to become FMCGs,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And that's the next step for Zuzi. We are actually becoming a retailer as well, an online retailer.
So you have
So
your own shops, your own stock. You're not going via a retailer as a middleman, so to speak.
yeah, that's the future of Zuzi, where we're actually building what we call dark stores,
Okay.
where you can actually buy products from your Unilever, your Tiger brands, all
Yeah.
those FMCGs that you already know,
Yeah.
that you've been buying from our platform,
Mhm.
you can actually get those things from us. So,
Does
but
that mean
these
the
things,
products will be cheaper?
sorry.
Does that mean the products now that you sell on your platform will be cheaper, or it's still the same price? You just get a bigger margin.
Yeah, it will be cheaper, but also like we're getting a better margin,
Okay.
getting a better margin. Yeah, so yeah, but like these are things that I mean, you wouldn't know from the word go. It's things that you learn, and are easy to learn, by the way. Like I think the most difficult thing is to get people to love your product, is to
Yeah.
get people to download your platform,
Yeah.
buy and trust it. That's what's difficult.
Mm.
The issue of margin like that is very easy. When you have a customer and you're smart, you can always find a way to do a lot of different things. And that's how even Amazon did it as well. And if you look in Amazon, their book businesses or e-commerce businesses is not profitable, right?
Mhm.
But like because they had customers who loved them, they had a brand. They started to build a lot of other services. Like
Yeah.
if you look at Amazon Web Services now, it's the most profitable thing they have.
Yeah.
That couldn't have been possible without them actually realizing that there was a gap in the space by starting to do like e-commerce, whatever, in the beginning, in the first place. So, and it applies to a lot of business, even Facebook as well. Same thing. You have over a billion people. There was no advertising revenue on Facebook. It was just a platform with no revenue actually. You know,
Mm.
but because people love the product, it was easy for them to say, these are the things that we can move to.
Yeah.
And these are the things that a lot of VCs as well in South Africa needs to learn that. It's not something that they are aware of. It's not something that they know of. It's things that they still have to learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.